Hey everybody, I'm sure many of you guys probably know that Windows XP support has ended on April 8th, 2014. Technically speaking, I'm actually shooting this video on April 7th, but it won't be reaching YouTube until the 8th or later. So that being stated, this is going to be a video on how to upgrade from Windows XP to Windows 7. Now of course, before I get started, technically speaking you cannot do that from what Microsoft says. Microsoft says you must back up your files and settings, then do a clean install of Windows 7 on the Windows XP computer, and then transfer your files, settings, and that stuff back over. Now Microsoft is teaming up with a third-party software vendor. I forget the name of the software vendor right now, but they're teaming up with a software vendor to offer an easier upgrade process. But there is another way that you can do this and keep your programs, files, and settings intact. Now of course I recommend that if you do not have a lot of stuff you would need to transfer over, I would recommend doing a clean install. I recommend clean installs any day over upgrades. But let's say you have a computer system that has so many programs, so many files, so many settings, you have it tailored for a certain environment or application, and you can't reinstall Windows, you can only upgrade. But there's one way you can easily upgrade from Windows XP to Windows 7, and it's through Windows Vista. You start out with Windows XP on the machine, then you upgrade to Windows Vista, and then you upgrade from Windows Vista to Windows 7. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I originally did this tutorial on a virtual PC using VM VirtualBox, but I had some technical issues with VM VirtualBox and Windows Vista. They didn't like each other. So that being stated, we're doing it here on a actual PC. This is the one that got traded in. I already had to install Windows XP and some programs, so I completely wiped out the user's information, starting out with a fresh user account, and loaded in a few other programs to make it look like a typical existing install of Windows XP to upgrade from. Now of course, while Windows is loading, I'm going to talk about a few things you want to keep in mind. In some cases your Windows XP computer may be too old to run Windows 7. It may require a lot of upgrades just to run Windows 7. But in some cases you may have a system that can run Windows 7 with just a few upgrades, maybe like with some extra memory. For example, the computer in this video is probably a 2006 compact Presario. It currently has a Design for XP Vista capable badge on the front. Now even if your computer doesn't have the Windows Vista capable badge, it doesn't mean your computer can't run Windows 7. One way to determine this, probably one of the best ways to determine this, is to download and run the Windows 7 Upgrade Advisor. But a few things that you can tell right away if your computer can run Windows 7 is to figure out what chipset's installed. If it's an Intel 945 or later, or maybe a 915 with a separate graphics card, then yes, you could run Windows 7. If you have an NVIDIA GeForce 6100 LE or later chipset, you can run Windows 7. Now of course this is with Arrow. As I mentioned for the Intel, I meant to mention for Arrow. And if you have an AMD or ATI chipset, well, if you have an AMD chipset, you're good to go. If you have an ATI chipset, like let's say a Radeon Express 200 or later, you can run Windows 7 with Arrow. So as you see, we have a Windows XP desktop here, and we have some programs. What I'm going to do right quick is I'm going to simulate having some files. I'm going to create a document here, just say a text document. This is our document, and there's nothing in the download. This is I'm going to put something there just to make it look like there's a download here. Let's say text document. Now Google Chrome actually created this folder. So let's see, for pictures I'm going to drop in some files. We'll use this folder here. And for music, we're going to copy over these 3 tracks. There's already a little bit of something there, but anyways, just for demonstration purposes, going to copy those in there. Now we can officially get started with the process here. So let's say you do not have an extra hard drive. You will need to do the following things. Let me explain why. Windows XP stores user account files differently than newer versions of Windows. In Windows XP, it has, C:/ documents and settings, username, and then my documents. And inside there you have your music, pictures, that kind of stuff. In Windows Vista and later, it's C:/ users / your username / my documents or pictures, music, or videos. In Windows Vista or later, the music, pictures, and videos folders are stored outside of the documents folder. They're actually in the user account name folder, along with downloads too. So in this process, you will need to make a copy of your My Pictures and My Music folders. And this, create a new folder. You can call it Backup. The reason why I'm doing this is because in the past I have found that sometimes XP doesn't, the Windows Vista upgrade doesn't properly copy those files over. So when you have them in a separate folder, you'll have them there easily to get. Now I also recommend, if you have a whole separate hard disk drive, that you should actually do a drive-to-drive data copy of your entire C drive. So that way, if something fails, you can easily revert back to XP. Now supposedly the installers can do this too. The Windows installers, they can do this too, but you never know what could happen. So it's always safe to back up before you get started. But let's say worst case scenario, just at least move your My Music, copy your My Music and My Pictures to an extra folder. Okay, now that pretty much sums it up with files. Now, of course, I'd recommend, I believe I mentioned this earlier, recommend that you run the Windows 7 Upgrade Advisor. It'll tell you what's compatible, what's not, what may need to be upgraded, that kind of stuff. I'm not going to run that in this video, but basically, all you have to do is go to Microsoft, or just go to Google and just search Windows 7 Upgrade Advisor, and you can download that from Microsoft's website and just run the installer and follow the directions, and it will tell you exactly what you need to have done. Now, I've also found that the Windows Vista and Windows 7 upgraders will tell you compatibility issues, as you're about to see right now. I'm going to insert the Windows Vista disk. Now basically, as I mentioned, this is a XP to Vista to 7 upgrade. You can do this if you can get a Windows Vista disk off like a friend or somebody. Now obviously we're talking about XP here as a 32-bit operating system. I recommend you go with Vista 32-bit and then Windows 7 32-bit, unless your system is 64-bit capable. Now I'm not 100% sure if you can go from XP 32 to Vista 64. You may have some extra issues there. In that case, I would recommend a clean install, but for older XP computers that have like less than 3 gigs of RAM, preferably 2 gigs of RAM, 32-bit will work just fine. And yes, I'm talking a lot in this video, and that's because this is supposed to be an informational video for those who are not very familiar with upgrading Windows. So anyways, we're going to insert this disk into the DVD drive. Now, we're going to get started. And if you have any questions prior to your upgrade, feel free to ask in the comments. But let's say by now you've copied over your files to some sort of other storage device, or copied your pictures, music, videos to a different folder. You're ready to get started. We're going to go install now. This will load up the Windows Vista installer. You're thinking, I don't have a product key for Windows Vista. The thing is, you don't even need a product key, because you're not intending to activate Windows Vista. So just follow the directions as you see here. The installer is currently loading. Now this here is totally up to you. You can say go online to get the latest updates for installation, or you can say do not. See, this is just a tutorial. I'm just going to say do not. Now, as I mentioned, you don't need a product key. Just uncheck automatically activate Windows while I'm online and select next and click no. And here's the next thing you need to keep in mind. You need to select the same version of Windows Vista as the Windows 7 version you're upgrading to. For example, you can't upgrade from Windows Vista Business to Windows 7 Home Premium because it's technically a lower end version. But you can upgrade from Windows Vista Home Basic or Home Premium to Windows 7 Professional or Ultimate. Pretty much you get the idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the same version of Windows Vista as the XP version on this computer, which is Home Edition. You can select Home Basic or Home Premium. I prefer Home Premium. And just select your version and just say I've selected the edition of Windows that I purchased. Or not. Click Next. Go ahead and accept the license terms and click Next. Now select Upgrade. And now it's going to check for compatibility. Here you see it says potential issues were detected. And it'll tell you about Microsoft Interactive Training and Windows Messenger. So I knew Messenger would be included. Select Next. And now go find something else to do, because this will take up to a few hours to complete. That's the only downside with upgrading Windows, is it takes longer to do versus doing a clean install. Okay, after a couple hours and a few restarts, you're finally greeted with this screen here. I'm going to say ask screen later. Don't want to install any updates. Verify the time settings are correct, date and time settings. Next. Choose your network location if it detects your card, your network card or network controller. Click Start. Now it's going to run through the assessment and all that kind of stuff. Alrighty, now we're almost finished with the Windows Vista upgrade. Just waiting to get past this stage. Now, of course, one thing to keep in mind is that Windows Vista will run slower than Windows 7. Yeah, and there's the desktop. One crazy thing I see here is it did not keep the desktop wallpaper. Now it's because I had it set to a Windows XP wallpaper. Now generally, if you have your own, let's say one of your photos set as your desktop wallpaper, that will transfer over to the newer version of Windows. First thing we'll do is close out this, go to Start, Control Panel, Classic View, and then we'll go to User Accounts. You can only guess what I'm about to do. That's right. Turn off user account control. That's one less thing we have to worry about when we upgrade from Vista to 7. Select OK. Go ahead and restart. Good. Anyway, now we're in the desktop, and as I mentioned, you only have to worry about activating Windows Vista. You don't have to worry about a product key. and still waiting for everything to get going. Of course, it's Vista. What do you expect? Turn off this welcome thing. That's another thing that I'm glad they disabled in Windows 7. I mean, this is a general idea of how Windows 7 is really just a fixed up version of Windows Vista. But now let's go ahead and take the Windows Vista DVD out and put in the Windows 7 DVD. And this DVD I have here is an image that I found years ago that will install any version of Windows 7 you want, from starter to enterprise. As you can see, AVG does not like upgrades. It's saying it's not able to recognize your license number. You know what the funny thing is? This is AVG free. Why would it need a license number? But that's one thing you will have to reinstall after the upgrade is AVG. But anyways, now the Windows 7 DVD is in. Run setup. So pretty much when you get to Vista, all you really have to do is go in and disable user account control. You may not have to do it, but it's something I would personally recommend. Click on install now. This is kind of a repeat of what we just did with Windows Vista. See, the trick here is getting Vista on your XP computer, because while Windows 7 will not allow you to upgrade from XP to Windows 7, it'll allow you to upgrade from Windows Vista to Windows 7. That's the key thing here. And again, this may take a little longer to load because I'm loading it off of a DVD. Again, just like before, let's just say do not go online to get latest updates. It's totally your call. Now you'll get to choose which version of Windows 7 you want to install. We're going to say Home Premium. And we'll select Next. And generally upgrading from Vista to 7 shouldn't be as long, because it's a little bit less complicated to do. Anyways, we'll accept these license terms. Click Next. Just select Upgrade. And just like in the Vista setup utility, it's going to check compatibility. And of course, it's telling me that there's going to be a few little conflicts, but these don't prevent installing Windows 7. It's saying that the ATI Catalyst Control Center may have issues, but really the driver's getting upgraded anyway. Just select Next. And just like before, go find you something else to do, because you might be waiting a little while for this to complete. It says your upgrade may take several hours to complete, just like in Vista. But the neat thing about the Windows 7 upgrade utility, it tells you the status of what it's doing. As you can see, it changed to preparing to copy Windows files, and say copying Windows installation files to your computer. It tells you how far it's through with that. And I mean, you can sit back and watch, or you can go find you something else to do. But anyways, we'll resume this when this is completed. Okay, after a few restarts and like a few hours of time, here we see the setup Windows screen for Windows 7. Now, of course, here you can enter your product key, or you can do something else. It's totally up to you. I'm not entering a product key in this video. It's just for tutorial purposes. Click Next, which is at the bottom of the screen. Looks like we might need a video driver. I'll cover this when we get finished. Honestly, ask me later. Verify the time's correct, which it is. Select the network location. Go ahead and skip the home group configuration. I'm not setting this thing up for a home group. Now we should see our desktop. Now obviously we don't have a video driver installed. It's funny, in Vista we had a video driver, but Windows 7 it couldn't detect a driver. Let's see if we even have sound. We probably don't even have that, because this motherboard has an AC97 controller. Yeah, we do have audio. You know, it's funny, I told it not to install updates, but it's installing updates. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. I just sat there and told it not to install updates. But yet it's just doing it anyway. Look here. Find an example of Microsoft trying to force updates down your throats. I'll make this a video on its own. So let me go ahead and turn off the service while I'm at it. Okay, now we're at the Windows 7 desktop. You can see the gadgets on the right that were on Windows Vista. Let's go and get rid of those. Now, let's go ahead and see if our files are intact. I don't know why I just double clicked that like that. Have a look here. Surprisingly, this Windows upgrade kept the pictures in the correct folder. But let's see where it says that folder is located. Let me just do it like this. Bypass libraries. For once, it actually kept the files in the correct location. But anyways, as I mentioned before, it's still good to keep those files in a separate backup folder just in case it doesn't transfer. It's hit or miss. But now we got files out of the way, let's go ahead and have a look at something else. We need to look at drivers. Go to Device Manager. You see what devices need drivers. Now, when you first get Windows 7 installed, one of the good ways to get drivers off of Windows Update without installing updates is to right-click on Computer and select Properties. Then go to Advanced System Settings. Go to the Hardware tab. Device Installation Settings. Select Install Driver Software for Windows Update if it's not found on my computer, and save changes. Now Windows will probably go online to look for drivers. Let's see how many registry errors we have in Windows now that we've upgraded twice pretty much. Now I scanned this and cleaned up the registry errors right before I did the upgrade, so what you'll see is fresh in terms of registry errors. Our driver file is almost finished. Yeah, this system's kind of lagging a little bit because the hard drive in it's not that fast. Let's say clean registry. 524 problems. Okay, now go ahead and restart. You can see now we have Windows 7 with Arrow. So anyways, that is pretty much how you upgrade from Windows XP to Windows 7. Now of course, you would also need to run Windows updates on this and get Service Pack 1 installed if your DVD for Windows 7 doesn't include Service Pack 1. All that kind of stuff. But basically this is how you upgrade from Windows XP to Windows 7. To recap, it's XP to Vista, Vista to 7. So anyways, hopefully this is helpful for you guys. Any questions or comments? Feel free to ask, and thanks for watching.